You wake up freezing, and there's no way to warm up. You have no heater or blankets thick enough to help. All you have is a small fire that completely burned out hours ago because it couldn't withstand the cold, and a house with holes and spaces that let the cold in easily. It's winter, and that simply means your farmland is as good as useless. The ground is basically frozen, so you can't grow anything. You're not even allowed to cut firewood from the forest nearby, because that land belongs to the local lord, so it's off limits. If you're caught taking even a single branch, you could lose your hand, so now you're cold, and the hunger is just starting to hit. Of course, you need to find something to eat somehow, so you go to check your food, but there's barely anything left. There's no bread or meat, and all you have is just a couple of shriveled roots you've stretched for days. You already ate all your chickens last month when the frost came early. To make matters worse, the little grain you saved can't be used until the soil thaws, and even then, it might not grow if spring comes late. You think about asking your neighbors for help, but they're just as hungry as you are. They'll want to preserve what they have to last them the day, and if they're lucky, the entire winter season. As for the local lord, he's locked his grain stores because that food is only for his soldiers or to sell for profit. To him, you're really not a priority. As the seconds go by, the hunger gets worse fast. Your movements and thought process slow down, and everything starts to feel overwhelming. You begin to wonder what you'd do if the hunger gets unbearable and your neighbor maybe has a few potatoes you can take. These thoughts creep in slowly, but everyone is thinking the same thing. You know stealing is risky because the punishment is far too brutal, but everyone knows hunger doesn't care about logic. You try to be strong, but your body is getting weaker, and now you're scared of other people too, because they're hungry just like you. And desperate people do desperate things. Then the onset of sickness begins. Your kids start coughing, but there's no medicine, hospital, or doctor. All your small village has is a priest who might say a prayer. If the fever hits you, you probably won't make it through the month. There's no backup plan to fall on, no food bank, and no outside help. Once your body runs out of strength, that's it. So you need to find a way to satisfy your hunger. Here's where the desperation really begins. You settle for chewing on pieces of bark, hoping it tricks your stomach into feeling full. It's quite common during this season for people to do this or boil leather belts or stale thatch from the roof. Some might even catch a rat, but it's covered in fleas, and they try not to think about what it's been crawling through. You don't want to end up having a rat as your meal for the day, but things aren't looking good. You tell yourself you'd never steal, but now your next-door neighbor has chickens, and your 4 children haven't eaten in 2 days, so you sneak out back and take 6 eggs. You feel guilty doing this, but you can't risk your children dying of hunger. You return home and boil the eggs. While your children are eating them hungrily, you leave for the market to trade your youngest daughter's shoes for a slice of salted meat. She cries when she sees them gone, but you have to choose between cold feet and an empty stomach. At the market, fights break out over scraps. Traders start hiding some of their perishable goods because they're scared they'll sell it all and not have any for their own families, or that others might come for it. You hear rumors that someone sold their child to a traveling merchant in exchange for flour, and another family vanished after a failed grain theft. You fear for your own life and hope nobody saw you stealing those eggs. As you leave the market with the salted meat you traded your daughter's shoes for, you wish the village had some help, maybe government aid or relief wagons. Even if that exists and you manage to find a little food, the real danger has already started. Your body has become weak and your immune system is nearly gone. As badly hungry as you are, you're also very thirsty. The water you used to boil the eggs you stole for your children was the same water they had to drink, so you could manage the water you had left at home for cooking and drinking the next few days. The village has no clean water supply. The only water you all have comes from a shallow stream or a local well. the same places where animals drink, people wash, and sometimes dead bodies are dumped when people don't have the money to spend on a proper funeral. The water might look clean, but inside there are bacteria, parasites, and filth that your starving body can't fight. Hunger might make you steal, but what comes from that water might finally kill you. You know this, but you're already so desperate for water that you take yet another risk. You change course and head for the shallow stream, the same one everyone else in the village uses. That stream also runs past animal pens, where pigs and cows do their business. Dead animals sometimes rot near the edges, kids bathe in it, women wash clothes in it, and it's the same water you are expected to cook with. Boiling water helps, but firewood is just as hard to find as food is. You remember, you're not allowed to cut down trees in the forest freely, and besides, collecting wood takes time and energy. Two things you're already very short on, so most people just drink the water as it is. You might be fine one day, and the next, you're dealing with stomach cramps, diarrhea, vomiting, or worse. Diseases like dysentery, cholera, and typhoid were common, and they spread fast, especially in small villages. Once you're sick, the problems pile up. The local healer might give you a handful of herbs and pray for your recovery, but there's no real treatment or proper medicine. Regardless of whether you're young or old, you're not safe from the sickness. Dehydration alone can be deadly, especially when food is scarce and you're already weak from poor nutrition. And this isn't just about your health. The moment you're too sick to work, your absence gets noticed. In the medieval ages, being ill did not excuse you from work. It made you a liability. Local lords didn't care how you felt. You owed labor and food, and if you couldn't provide it, someone else had to, which meant your family would suffer while you were replaced. Work in the medieval period was not a choice. It was a necessity for survival. Every day meant backbreaking labor in the fields or around the home, plowing, planting, hauling, cleaning, fixing, lifting. From sunrise to sunset, your hands were busy. If you were lucky, you had a basic tool to work with. If not, you had to use your hands directly. There were no breaks, no weekends, and no easing up while you were ill or injured. You also weren't working for yourself. A large chunk of what you produced went to the local landlord who owned the land. You owed him food, labor, and loyalty, not because you agreed to it, but because that's just how the system worked. If you didn't give him what he expected, he could take your home or your farm from you. And there were no appeals. Even if you worked very hard to please him, the physical toll was brutal. Your hands would often crack and bleed. Your back would ache so badly that you wouldn't be able to get a wink of sleep at night. What you could call a simple injury like a cut or a twisted ankle could turn bad if left without proper sterile medical care. If it worsened and you couldn't walk or bend, you were of no use to anyone. So, you would usually keep going until your body completely gave out. If it finally does, that's the beginning of the end. If you can't work, you can't provide for your family. If you can't provide, you become a burden. Even your own family might be forced to choose between keeping you alive and saving themselves. With all of this in mind, you reconsider drinking the water and head home, where even more problems await you. You get home, tired and sore, hoping there's at least one egg left for you, but your kids ate them all. You don't blame them. They were hungry, and you were gone longer than expected, but something feels off. One of your sons is lying down on the cold floor, barely moving. His face looks pale and he's sweating even though the fire has been out for hours. He says his stomach hurts, and the others say he started throwing up right after eating. You look at the leftover shells. One of them smells bad, and you realize he ate a rotten egg. You hadn't noticed it earlier because you were more focused on not being caught as you stole the eggs. There's nothing you can do and no doctor to call. You crush up a few dried herbs the healer gave you months ago and make a tea, but you're not sure it'll even help. You sit there and watch his lips go dry after drinking the tea. The next danger could come from a neighbor's illness spreading through the village. It could be another winter season killing off your vegetables. It could even be a tax collector showing up early and demanding more than you've got. The list of problems seems like it never ends, and no matter how careful you are, something always finds a way to make your life unbearable. If your child dies from food poisoning or you die from hunger, you know, dying poor means dying forgotten. There's no grave marker, service, or kind words spoken over your body. All you get is a shallow hole outside the village or a pit with others who died the same way. You've lived your whole life working someone else's land, paying someone else's taxes, and feeding someone else's belly. Then, when you die, there's no record you were ever here. You're not just surviving the harsh manual labor, the weather, or a full day where one wrong move means punishment. You're also enduring the hopelessness, fear, and constant reminder that your life isn't really yours. Most peasants didn't even reach 40 years of age, so would you last a day?